Hey, welcome to Unraveling with Jamie and July, where we explore the many layers of healing, deep dive into the difficult or often avoided conversations, and unravel what it means to be a woman in today's world. What are we diving into today, July?
Well, today we're going to dive into a conversation about burnout, a term that gets thrown around a lot, but is often misunderstood. We live in a world that glorifies hustle. Sound familiar, Jamie?
Mm-hmm.
Especially for women. And we're here to talk about what that's doing to us. Burnout is more than just feeling tired. It's a full body shutdown, a deep disconnection from yourself, and sometimes a sign of deeper unresolved wounds. If you've been feeling exhausted, numb, or just over it, this episode might just be for you. We'll break down what burnout really is, why so many women are drowning in it, and how we can start breaking free. If this episode resonates, stay tuned to find out how you can connect with us and access deeper healing resources by joining our membership, where we explore how to navigate healing and life's many complexities with self-love, compassion, and resilience. So, ready to dive in?
Let's do it.
Okay. So first, let's talk about our experiences with burnout. Would you say that you've experienced burnout, Jamie?
Yeah, I was actually reflecting on this last night a bit in just thinking about, when we were recording this today. And I was actually surprised with my reflection, because I was like, yeah, I definitely have experienced burnout, but I think I experienced it a lot more recently in my past than I realized.
Mm-hmm.
I think that initially I thought that I had, experienced burnout before I kind of started also my healing journey. But then I realized that that wasn't really the case. I think I was experiencing it for a long time.
Yeah.
But I think kind of that point, I guess, where I got to the point of really being burnt out was a lot more recent, which I was surprised to kind of realize.
Yeah, no. Well, honestly, I didn't even know, when we talked, we had our episode on our healing journeys,
right,
the early days. And when I talked about sort of my low point, the in quotes rock bottom sort of situation, at the time, I had no idea that was burnout. I mean, there's no question that's what happened. I was definitely at the burnout phase, and I had been going and burning the candle at both ends, and it wasn't working. So yeah. So I get you on the reflecting back, because it's taken educating myself on this subject to be like, oh, that's what was going on. And then, so it wasn't like when I entered into healing, I knew, I'm in recovery from burnout.
Right,
but
yeah.
Thankfully, I was doing all the things necessary. I don't even know that when I entered into healing, we were using that word.
I don't know. Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure it's been around for a while,
sure.
but I don't think it was as prevalent as it is now. And, a lot of people are talking about this. So, yeah.
No, absolutely.
So I guess our next question, did we recognize it at first, or did it sneak up on us? Oh, it snuck up on me.
I think that's how someone gets burnt out, is that it does sneak up on you.
No, I don't think you realize.
No, because once again, I was in my reflection last night, I was just no, I just thought I was depressed for a really long time. But when I started looking at all the other kind of symptoms that come into play, I was just of course I was depressed, but there was a lot more going on.
Yeah, for sure. So how did we know that it wasn't just being tired, but something deeper?
I think I think I'm gonna simplify that and saying if we're speaking of just feeling tired, the fact that no matter how much you sleep, you don't not feel tired.
Exactly.
Like,
that's exactly
you just
what I was
feel
gonna
more
say.
tired.
Yep, that's exactly
or like
what I was
rest
gonna say.
doesn't do anything.
No, and we're gonna talk about that,
Yeah.
like, because that's the thing, is that this isn't about you need more rest.
Mm-hmm.
This is a much deeper
Yeah.
thing that's going on. So, the World Health Organization defines burnout as chronic workplace stress that has not been successfully managed. But let's be real, it goes way beyond that. Burnout isn't just about work. It's the emotional, mental, and physical depletion caused by prolonged stress and overextension from overgiving, overfunctioning, and never feeling like you can stop. It can show up in every area of life: work, parenting, relationships, caregiving, activism, even, which, that one made me pause and think, like, oh, yeah, like that, you could burn out from that.
For sure.
And even in healing itself. So
I get that one.
yeah, I had a feeling you were going to definitely get that one.
Yeah.
So burnout is not just being really tired, as we've already stated. It is not a sign of weakness or failure. It's not something that you can fix with a weekend off or a new self-care routine. And it's not something that will go away on its own. Unfortunately, when you ignore this, the problem gets worse. So why do you think burnout has become so common, especially for women? It's like we both look at each other like,
I don't know, like, where to begin with that.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I guess just in my own experience, there's a lot you think of the societal pressures, like that's the first thing that comes to mind for me. And that there's that pressure to just go, 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 go. And, obviously I can't speak for what it's like for men, but like, I know as a woman, there is that pressure to just do everything.
Oh, for
and
sure.
Like, even speaking as a woman who doesn't have kids, so I can't imagine having that thrown into the mix too. But there's just this pressure of like, you can do everything.
You gotta be there for everyone.
And you can do everything, and you can't appear like you need rest, and you can't appear like you need a break. And you can't appear weak. You have to just do it all.
Yeah.
Like, there's this, I think, expectation as women to just be able to do it all.
Oh, for sure. And it's coming from societal conditioning, and it's coming from the generational trauma that we're carrying. I mean, there's so many factors coming into play from each of those areas too, making it like it's really, for women, we just have too much pressure on us. And with hustle culture, it's just made things so much worse. So, I don't know. Maybe it's always been really, really bad. Who knows? Like, when you really think about it and you look back at history, it's like,
Well, I think it just looked different.
Yeah. Women may have been, suffering from what we now call burnout for many, many centuries now. And, it was not uncommon, for men to see this as like hysteria and stuff, and put them in institutions and whatnot, because for a break, for a rest. I know that was certainly a thing in the early 20th century for sure. So
well, I mean, it would also play, I mean, I know there's a lot of factors throughout history that play into like, health and all that kind of stuff too. But I mean, if you think about like coming down with different illnesses and dying really young and stuff like that too, right? And it's like
the amount of children that women used to have,
right?
And how much was put on them during, like we could go way into this. So, I mean, very, very important to, in your healing process as a woman, learn your women's history, because it helps you to understand what's happened, where things have come from, and the generational trauma. It's how you heal it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I find the best healing comes from the starting point of awareness, and then you move forward. So,
oh, for sure.
Yeah. So why do some of us push ourselves to the brink? People pleasing, over functioning, and perfectionism often come from deeper wounds. Many of us are set up for burnout long before we enter the workforce, long before we start a family, or take on responsibilities that wear us down. If you grew up in survival mode, you likely learned to overachieve, to earn love and approval, to put others' needs before your own, always, to stay hyper vigilant, constantly scanning for the next problem to solve, and to ignore your body's signals of exhaustion or discomfort. I mean, this is exactly
I was wondering if I should be saying check next every time you listen.
Right?
Check.
And I mean, and it's exactly what we were just talking about too, of being a woman. Like, so those things are so common for us as women to want approval from others, to, you know, and constantly be seeking that approval, and putting others' needs before your own. I mean, hello.
Well, yeah, I'm like looking at these and I'm like, I feel like these, like, just those 4 are things that women do. And like, even if you don't come from like a household that has a lot of like chaos or trauma, or, you know what I mean? It's like, these are things that it seems to be very much a women's issue.
It's a prominent women's issue for sure. Yeah. I mean, scanning the room for the next problem to solve. I mean, that's that worrying. That's that constant state of worry. Like, even if it's not that you're literally scanning a room, it's in your mind.
But I'm thinking of that, and I'm like, okay, well, for that one there, it's like you could think about that one as in like living in a stressful environment, but also, I don't know a single woman that I've talked to who doesn't walk with her keys between her fingers when she's walking late at night. Exactly. So like, doesn't matter.
Yeah. It's the condition.
You know, it's the condition. Yeah.
The life that we live as women. Yeah, for sure. So for trauma survivors, burnout isn't just exhaustion. It's a nervous system collapse. So I think that's really important to understand, is this concept of, oh, burnout, you're just tired. Rest. And, you know, I'm very much for you should take time to rest, because that's how we break these patterns. It's just understanding that when you have burnout, the rest is not going to fix it, because it's a nervous system collapse, and it goes so much deeper. The body moves from fight or flight into a freeze mode. That's what's happening here. So this is why burnout can feel so paralyzing, why motivation vanishes, and why even basic self-care can feel impossible. So do you think burnout is sometimes a trauma response? I mean, yes.
Yes, moving on.
And have you noticed this in yourself? Yes. Hand raised, for sure. And I think, you know, yes, it can sometimes be a trauma response. It's like you said, it's not to say that everybody is coming from chaotic homes and backgrounds. You can still go into burnout 100%. Without that. It's just that, yes, many women have experienced different traumas, many of us, and, you know, men too. And that does contribute to the likelihood that you will burn out if you do not work on healing. So I'm just going to have a drink of water.
Yeah. No, I'm just like reflecting on that, that it's the nervous system collapse, because I don't think I've ever actually really thought about it in that regard. But like, it makes so much sense when I'm thinking about like my own journey and actually like healing. Yes. Which I'm sure we'll talk about more as we carry on here. So I don't want to get into it too much right now, but I'm just like, oh my gosh, that makes so much sense. Especially in the like how to heal part. Like, it's a nervous system collapse.
Well, I think it's really important that people realize that it's that your body has moved from fight or flight, which is sort of the standard that most of us, like, I shouldn't say most, but many of us are in,
Mm-hmm.
right? That is leading us into the burnout
Mm-hmm.
phase. But then
Yeah.
your nervous system gets so overwhelmed by this,
Mm-hmm.
it collapses
Mm-hmm.
into a freeze mode. It's like you
Mm-hmm.
just feel like you can't
You
keep
can't,
going.
yeah.
Everything feels like a struggle, like just
Mm-hmm.
an uphill battle. And you know, and the more you ignore it and you push it down and you know, ignore the body's signals,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
the worse things get.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yes, in that question, do we think it's a trauma response? Well, we don't think we actually know that it can be, because we see it right here. Yeah. And I've definitely noticed that certainly that was what contributed for myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that.
Yeah. So here are some signs you're burning out, because once again, it's not just exhaustion. And I know this sounds repetitive, but it's just so important that we start to really understand that if you're feeling really tired, that could be a warning sign that you might need to investigate. So
ongoingly tired.
Yes, ongoingly. Like, it's just every day is a struggle. Maybe take pause and look at that, because this is something that is being overlooked until things get really bad. And we don't have to do that. There's no need. So, yeah. So because, well, I'll say it once again, because once again, it's not just exhaustion or that you are just busy. Burnout has layers: emotional, mental, and physical. And it doesn't happen overnight. It creeps in. It's a slow little creeper, that one.
It's a slow burn.
And there's nothing cute about it.
No.
So here are some key signs. So emotional signs: feeling numb, detached, or resentful. Increased anxiety or panic attacks. Apathy. Things that used to excite you feel meaningless. Irritability, mood swings, or unexplained anger. A sense of deep loneliness, even when you're around others. The physical signs: chronic fatigue that doesn't improve with rest. Insomnia or disrupted sleep, even if you're exhausted. Frequent headaches, body pain, or stomach issues. Weakened immune system, getting sick often. Adrenal fatigue, feeling wired but exhausted at the same time. So, and then the mental signs are brain fog, forgetfulness, difficulty concentrating, procrastination or avoidance of even the simple tasks, feeling stuck in a cycle of overthinking and inaction, doubting your abilities or feeling like a failure, even if you're successful. So those are all just things to be aware of and to sort of, you know, reflect on. If you have been dealing with long-term exhaustion, do you have any of these symptoms? And if you don't, that's fantastic and awesome. But, you know, maybe you might know someone, a loved one, that you're seeing some of these patterns in. And, you know, this is not a discussion. It's not like we're sitting around the table just talking about burnout, you know, the risks of burnout in our modern society. And the risks are real. Yeah. So, so this is why, you know, we're going through this, because just to spread some awareness here on this. So let's explore which of these symptoms we relate to most. And did we see them in ourselves before we hit full burnout? Oh boy. Let's see.
I feel like symptoms we relate to the most.
Yeah,
okay,
I can definitely say a deep sense of loneliness. That one really, like, I had no necessarily like a reason to be lonely, but I definitely experienced that. There's no question. And feeling numb, I would say, was definitely something that the chronic fatigue, Insomnia. Oh my gosh. I have a whole, I have a relationship with insomnia.
Yeah.
I should say I had a
Yeah.
relationship for years.
You guys broke up though.
Yes, we did. Body pain,
Mhm.
definitely. Stomach issues,
Yeah.
definitely. Weakened immune system. Well, I mean, there can be a lot of other reasons that that's
Mhm.
happening. It's definitely something I experienced, but there are layers to my
Yeah.
experience with that. Yeah, I think brain fog for sure. Yeah, and feeling stuck in the cycle of overthinking. Oh my
Mhm.
gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, some of these things are so, when we have to visit the thing, like the stuff that we were going through before healing,
Mhm.
sometimes it's really hard for me because it was not a good time.
Yeah.
And I don't like going,
I don't mean to laugh, but no, it's
love
not.
reflecting on it. I gotta say, I mean,
Yeah.
I love doing the work of helping people, and I
Mhm.
know by sharing your story, it helps.
Mhm.
It's just sometimes looking back at these things, it's like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
wow.
I know. Like, no, I get what you mean. I feel like I relate to all of these symptoms, so I don't really see the point in picking out certain ones. Like, I'm just like, all of these. I also wanted to leave it to me to want to make a joke, but I was just like, oh, this kind of sounds like PMS too, but like,
Well, I mean,
at least it'll not only last for like a week. It's different.
Well, I don't know. I think there's some things that are definitely different from PMS,
yeah, no, for
sure. So
it's more of a me joke, but I really shouldn't make the jokes that like goodness. You have to know me to know why it's funny.
That's okay. The listeners are getting to know you, so there we go.
They're getting to know that my jokes aren't that funny. They're just funny in my head.
Really funny.
Yeah.
I always say Jamie's the funniest person I know. Only you and I could find laughter in the subject of burnout.
Hey, if you can't laugh, you like. What are we gonna do? Just sit here and be like, "So burnout sucks." Like, like we might as well laugh. Yeah,
I mean, it's a terrible thing.
It is,
but
no, like, yeah, I definitely relate to all of these symptoms, and I know it says, "Did we see them in ourselves before we hit full burnout?" I definitely saw them, but I had no idea.
Oh, I didn't know.
I had no idea what it like. Well, once again, no. I thought I was depressed.
Yeah.
That was kind of the word I came up with after struggling with all these things for a while. Yeah. Still didn't know what to do about it, even if I was depressed. Like, I just thought I was just like, okay, I'm just depressed.
Yep.
And yeah, it was still in a state of like, I didn't know what to do about it for a long time.
Yeah, no. And that's the thing, is a lot of people are struggling with that. So, I mean, I'm hopeful that people are listening in and maybe some light bulbs are going off in this, because it truly is one of those things where it just can go overlooked until you hit a wall.
Well, especially like, as we've touched on with like the pressure, like depending on what's going on in your life, but also those societal pressures to just keep going.
Oh, it's really insane.
Like
hustle culture.
Yeah, hustle culture. And like, I think it's easy to not really see that there's other options and that you don't have to live in hustle culture, because especially if that's how you've been raised. Like, if,
absolutely,
if I know that's how I was raised, where it was just like, this is what you do.
Stay strong and you go,
yeah.
go. You plow through.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which I'm sure we'll get much deeper into that in our upcoming episode on dismantling hustle culture.
I know. I'm trying not to get too off into that, because I'm just like, well, we're going to talk about it.
Stay tuned for that episode. I think that'll be following this one, maybe next week.
I think so. Yeah.
So let's talk about how often burnout is misdiagnosed, because burnout isn't widely understood at this point. It often gets dismissed or misdiagnosed. I mean, yes. Can you imagine?
Mm-hmm.
I want to do a bell sound because of what you were ding. Just talking about. Ding, 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 ding. Depression.
Right.
Yeah, it often gets misdiagnosed as depression.
Mm-hmm.
While there's overlap Depression is a persistent mood disorder, while burnout is tied to prolonged stress and overextension. So it can present as depression. Laziness or lack of discipline. So there you go. Some people that you might think are lazy or don't have discipline, they actually could have burnout. So
I remember that being a bit of an issue for me when I was younger. Like, sorry to just kind of like jump in here, but like, I thought I was lazy. Like, or not so much that I thought I was lazy, but that was kind of like some internal dialogue that would like go like that. Especially when I really, you're feeling that exhaustion, you can't keep up, you can't keep doing all the things. I would kind of beat myself up in my own head and say that I was lazy. Like, what's wrong with you? Why can't you keep going? You must be lazy.
Yeah. Because when the body is burned out, it physically cannot push forward.
Yeah.
It's not a lack of effort. It is literally a system shutdown. So it's not laziness necessarily. It's something to look into.
Yeah.
Anxiety disorder. Again, I want to go.
You're right. I mean, like, these just make so much sense.
Burnout often presents with anxiety, but it's rooted in chronic stress, depleting the nervous system. So, it's not just like they go hand in hand. Yeah.
I feel like it could probably, like, depending on the person and depending on the situation, it probably shows up perhaps as kind of these things more certain ones showing up stronger than others, depending. Absolutely. Like, for like thinking for myself, like mine really showed up as depression, whereas for someone else it might really show up anxiety, right? Yeah.
And then just stress, right? Stress can be short term and manageable. Burnout is when your system is in prolonged overload and begins to break down.
So that makes a lot of sense too. Like, the being in stress, kind of flipping back to like, does trauma have anything to do with this? Well, yeah, of course. Like, if you're living in a state of prolonged stress, absolutely, of course it's connected.
Yeah, no, a lot of people who have suffered traumatic incidents or from traumatic long periods within their life do burn out if it goes untreated, if that trauma is never addressed and there's no healing that's being worked on with it. Yeah, it can be a real problem. And it's not to say that you have to have trauma.
No,
but
no, absolutely not.
It definitely is. If you have trauma in your past, it's definitely a precursor to burnout. So many people are given antidepressants or anti-anxiety meds without addressing the root cause. And that's the thing, is like putting a Band-Aid on it. Sometimes those medications are absolutely necessary for what's going on with a person. However, to put a Band-Aid over burnout with those medications is, if you're not getting to like, well, what caused it? Where did it start? Where's the traumas? Where's the overdoing, the
I had that
perfectionism,
like, I went on medication in my 20s for depression, and it's like, yeah, it helped. Like, it basically helped me like even out, but then I would go off the medication and I was right back to square one because I wasn't dealing with the root cause.
Yeah, no, it's a real problem. And women in particular are often told, I mean, this is just so typical. Women in particular are often told to just practice self-care or try yoga. I want to say that in a real bubbly voice.
Yeah, try yoga.
Instead of being given real solutions. I mean, this is just a thing in women's health that, if you're listening and you're not aware, as women, our like research into our health conditions has been grossly ignored. Like, it's really astounding when you start to educate yourself on the lack of research into the woman's body and how we've been treated within the medical community. So, and things are getting better always, little by little, but it's still important to be informed and truly understand why we haven't received the care that we actually deserve, and why so many things have become these generational patterns amongst the women's line throughout families, right? So, yeah. Have you ever had burnout misinterpreted as something else, or did you yourself initially think it was something else? How did that affect your healing? I would say we've already answered that. Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
And how did it affect my healing? It definitely slows healing. When things are misdiagnosed, it slows you down. Yeah.
Well, yeah, because you kind of, in some ways, you focus on what you think it is.
Yeah.
And then you kind of miss the bigger picture for a while.
And for me, like, there was a lot of me just ignoring. So it wasn't even misdiagnosed as much as it's just me continuing in that mindset of you push through, you stay strong, you keep going no matter what. Survival mode.
Yeah. Well, I think for me, I thought it was more so like, well, in thinking that what was going on with me was depression, I thought that was more of a just like a personal flaw, as opposed to like how I was living my life.
Yeah.
And that, all these other factors were at play.
Yeah. No. I mean, I didn't even know. You go back quite a ways. I didn't know what survival mode was, right? I didn't know.
Well, you don't know what it is when you're in it.
No.
Like, for sure.
Yeah. It's only looking back and reflecting.
Yeah.
And when I look into, discovering more about myself, it's like, oh, things start to make more sense. And you're like, oh, that's why I do that.
Yeah.
Oh, you start looking at your past and the experiences you've had and things you've struggled with, and you really can piece things together.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And it does take us advocating for ourselves with our health, whether it's when you're in the presence of a medical practitioner, you need to be a strong advocate for yourself, or, just outside of that. Like, they only have so many minutes to give you at any appointment. It's not like you're sitting there for hours and hours and you're able to tell them all the things that have attributed. You never get that deep, right? It's just sort of, these are my symptoms. This is what's going on. And so it really is our responsibility to take our health, into our own hands and do some research without freaking out and Googling and like, you got to read some books and go to some...
Well, it's like, it's an ongoing process too. It's like, it's kind of like, don't overwhelm yourself, because that's not going to help.
Oh gosh, no. It's like peeling back layers.
Yeah. No, very much so. And it's like, just start getting curious, really, and exploring things and making little shifts.
For sure. I mean, that's what I did with trauma, is it was just kind of like, oh, okay, that's what happens to kids that are raised in this situation. Oh my gosh, that's what happens to kids whose parents have these problems. And like, you start to put the pieces together, and it's just like, oh, and you see yourself, and you understand yourself so much better. It's such a big part of the healing process.
Oh, absolutely.
So, you don't need... Well, we're going to go back to the burnouts, full in. You don't need a full life overhaul to begin recovering from burnout. So this is important, because it can seem like such a big thing. And because you do have to make shifts, you can feel very overwhelmed by that as well. But you don't have to have a full life overhaul. Small intentional shifts can make a massive difference. So here are some shifts to prevent burnout. Now, this isn't to heal from burnout. This is the prevention. Prioritize nervous system regulation. Take deep, slow breaths to signal safety to your body. Breath work. Engage in grounding practices. But what does that mean? Walking barefoot, holding ice works for some people. And again, we're back to breath, deep breathing. Reduce sensory overload. So dim the lights in your house, lower the noise level, step away from screens. I mean, that is definitely a problem in our modern day. Too much sensory overload. And, starting to rebuild our relationship with rest and fully embracing that rest is not something that you need to earn. It's actually necessary. Schedule rest like it's a non-negotiable appointment. Reclaim unproductive joy, like reading, just sitting and listening to music, daydreaming, or sitting in nature. I mean, it's so sad to me that there are still people out there that don't partake in that unproductive joy of just being in nature. Like, gosh,
no, I know. I was going to say, as we're, talking about rest, it's like, I think we often think of rest as like napping, but rest, there's so many different ways to rest.
So many ways.
Are not taking a nap. Like
no.
That. It's because I think, we're talking about here is like resting your nervous system, like allowing your nervous system to rest, your mind, body, and soul.
Well, and I think people oftentimes when they, first go into healing, they want that quick fix sort of a thing. But healing it's such a journey of discovery. So like, I say reclaim unproductive joy, and I give these ideas: reading, music, daydreaming, sitting with nature. I mean, we could also get it painting, drawing, there's lots of different activities. But the thing is everybody's little special formula is going to be a little different.
100%.
So reading might not be really the thing that relaxes you, or, maybe you're not a daydreamer. That's cool.
Yeah.
But
I think also though, in like, if you haven't done any of these things and you have just been stuck in that go mode, you might be a reader, but the first time you sit down and read, you're not going to be a reader. Exactly. If you've never sat and rested and just given your, like, learning to give yourself that time to, I'm going to say, quote unquote, do nothing.
Exactly.
Is difficult. Yeah. And the first time you do it, you might feel really uncomfortable. You might actually feel really anxious. And the second time you do it, you might feel the exact same way. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's a shift.
It's certainly, without question, the situation with meditation.
Yeah.
Right?
100%,
like that is,
right?
I mean, it's not like people are just like, yep, that's my strong point. I can just go and sit and meditate right off the bat, the very first time. Like, that's got to be pretty rare, if even at all possible. Yeah. At first, you are going to go through so much uncomfortability because your brain's not used to it.
Well, your brain's not used to it, and nor are you used to being in your body.
No.
Right? If you're in that go, and you're, you're in survival mode or whatever, you're not in your body.
Nope.
And so when you first start to do different practices that make you slow down and actually be in your body, it's uncomfortable.
Yeah. We have a little question here. How did we start allowing ourselves to slow down without guilt?
Necessity.
I was literally going to say the same thing. That's the thing with healing is you can wait until the breaking point, or you can start to identify the problems and be proactive about it. Unfortunately for myself, I waited until the breaking point. Yeah. So it was a non-negotiable. Yeah. Like, you will slow down.
Yeah. You will slow down either because you want to or because you will run into a brick wall. No, I think it was pretty much the same for me. It was a necessity.
And I don't feel guilty about it. I did initially, but now I'm like, no, this is what I have to do.
No, I had a very hard time initially. I'm going to say once again, quote unquote, doing nothing, like slowing down.
Oh yeah.
I had a really hard time shifting my mind to be like, you need to be productive. That was the big thing for me. You need to be doing something. You need to be productive.
Yeah.
And yeah, it took me a while to kind of shift. And honestly, even still, if I, like, even now, it's like if I kind of get off of my routine of some of my practices for a while, and then I get back into that very easily. Not as bad as before, but like, yeah, like I will, if I definitely notice that for myself. Like if I'm not doing like some of my daily practices that, ground me and that kind of thing, I very easily will get into that mindset again of like, gotta be productive, can't slow down, gotta be
Absolutely.
doing stuff.
Absolutely. And that's productivity guilt.
Mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm.
it's a conditioning that we have within our society. Capitalism and patriarchy make us believe that our worth is tied to what we do. And we need to reframe our mindset around success and self-worth,
Mm-hmm.
like drastically
Mm-hmm.
within our society. It's a real problem, and that's why we have so many people burning out. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
seriously, like the numbers, I know like you can't see them, but I did share them with you when I was doing the research for this episode.
Oh,
And
yeah, yeah.
it's mind-boggling
Mm-hmm.
that it's like 50% of people
Oh, I believe
are
it.
experiencing burnout.
Yeah.
And this is like, these are studies being done globally.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just wild how many people are
Mm-hmm.
experiencing this. And it's because of the way we live today and all the technology and all the go, go, go. And you're always available for everyone. And,
Mm-hmm.
you know, somebody sends you a text and they want a response right away, or
Mm-hmm.
did you check that email? And it's just constant, it never ends.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So
Yeah.
we really have to take control, and we need to understand that this is legitimately a conditioning within the society.
Yeah. And I think, like, I'm just reflecting. I'm still reflecting on the question of how did we start allowing ourselves to slow down without guilt. I kind of flipped back to that. And I was thinking about for myself, because I know burnout happens for a lot of different reasons. It's not always directly related to work, but I think work is such a big part of it
can be,
because
yeah,
that I think that is part of this hustle culture, right? Of like, gotta work, gotta get a career, gotta make money, like all this stuff. And I know for me that was definitely a factor. Was like, because I just very much felt like I always needed to be like working really hard, even at like whatever job I was at. Like, oh, I have to be like giving this job my all. And I think a big shift for me that happened as I started kind of healing was realizing how replaceable you are.
Yes.
And like in a job, it doesn't matter.
That's
like
because the system's designed
yeah,
that way.
yep. So I think that was a big mind shift for me to be able to let go, to be able to be like, oh, wait a minute. Like, it doesn't matter who I'm working for. They might be some of the most lovely people ever. But like, if I drop dead tomorrow, or if I can't get up out of bed because I'm so depressed and burnt out, I will be replaced very easily.
Yep.
And so I think in having that kind of shift and realizing these things, it kind of it really helps you start being able to put yourself first and being oh.
I could see with the particular thing though, like say you can't get out of bed and then realizing that you could be replaced easily, that could ensue more depression in someone too, though. That
totally
could make things worse. Or it could make them basically ignore their needs and keep going because they'll replace me. They'll replace me, right? So it can go.
It could go ways. It totally could go either way. Yeah. Of course. Oh crap! I had another thought and it went away. That's okay.
Okay.
I hate it when that happens.
Yeah, I mean, I think you got to ask yourself with all this, with the system for which we are in, with this productivity guilt and conditioning. Who benefits from me believing my worth is tied to how much I produce? Like, and that's where you get into the thing about like with jobs, right? Who benefits from this? Like, because it sure as heck isn't you, right? Yeah. Pretty important question to ask yourself if you're just constantly go, 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 go. And you're working for somebody else. Take a pause, reflect there. maybe you don't have to go all
Yeah.
the time. I mean, they've conditioned you to think that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think starting to allow yourself to be human.
That's how a capitalistic
Yeah.
system works, obviously.
Realizing that, there's
Yeah.
you could, there's a pretty good chance you're not gonna, get fired if you're 5 minutes late today. Like, you
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like,
Well, and that's kind of getting into our next question, which is what does enough look like to us now versus what it used to look like? I mean, I know for me, definitely, I was the go,
mhm,
and got to do it. Like,
mhm,
there's, no choice, very much the mentality rest is for the weak.
mhm,
And it made me run in circles. Basically, I just had cycles. When I look back on it, cycles for years of
mhm,
kind of, going, and then having collapse,
mhm,
and then getting up enough strength again to going,
mhm.
and then having collapse. And it just, doesn't work.
Yeah.
So nowadays, enough is
Enough is
whatever.
when I say it's enough.
Yeah, it's like I'm so relaxed about it.
Yeah.
Like compared to how I used to be, I'm just like, oh, yeah, today, I don't know. I feel like I'm fighting a bug. I better take it easy.
Mhm,
Oh, I have a lot of things to do today. Well, how can I organize
mhm,
them? How can I approach this from a realistic place? And then if for some reason I do hit the end of the day and I haven't accomplished the, long unrealistic list,
mhm,
which happens
mhm.
quite often, I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, well, I knew it was unrealistic when I started. Time to go to bed now.
Well, that was like even me the other day. I think like my to-do list, I mean, as you know, I think both of our to-do lists just continue to grow every time we have a meeting.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And like the other day I was looking at my to-do list and it was funny because I actually didn't set any kind of goal for myself of like, I'm going to, because that's what I used to do where I'd be like, oh, I'm going to like, I'd start my day and I'd already be like in my mind being like, I'm going to get this done today. But the other day I was like, this list is really long. It keeps growing. These are the priorities. Like I kind of like rearranged it as in these are the priorities. These are the things that need to get done first. And then I think I chopped off like 2 things off the list that day. And instead of being like, oh, I only got 2 things done, I was like, fuck yeah, I got 2 things done. Sweet. Like, you know what I mean? Like I was like, gone. They're off the list.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think for myself, for what's the question? What does enough look like now versus what it used to look like? Well, nothing was ever enough before.
Oh, yeah.
Like that's what it used to look like before. It was like nothing was ever enough for me. I have no idea where that bar was. And that's why, burnout happened. Because
and I think I'm more productive now than I ever was.
Well, of course, you would have more energy.
Yeah. No, for sure.
Yeah.
And the quality of what I'm producing is so much higher.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think for myself, there's been this like, I feel like I've done this so much in my healing journey, but like, I feel like I had a big pendulum swing, of course, where it was like, nothing was ever enough. And it was like, go. And then I went over to this like way over here to like, I don't give a shit about nothing. You will get my bare minimum and you will love it. And now I think I've kind of gotten to a happy medium of like, I'm like, and I'm thinking more so in like the terms of like working, is now I'm kind of like, I know I'm a good employee. I know I work hard when I'm at my job. I will give it my all and I will do my best, but I'm also human. And so I allow myself that grace, whether my employment allows me that grace or not. And they usually do. And I think that's the funny part. And like, it's a part of what I love. I am enjoying about getting older too, is just like this different level of maturity in my mind, because I've worked with a lot of people who are really, really young and they're still in that like stress of like, this is what I feel like I have to do and I have to show up this way. And I'm like, no, you don't. Calm down. You're fine. It's okay. You're going to be okay.
Getting older is awesome.
It's such a blessing. Like, thank God. Can you imagine being stuck in your 20s?
I was just reflecting on it. I think just like last night or the night before, and I was just like, man, what a beautiful thing to age and to be in this state of more wisdom and calm and peace.
Yeah, totally.
And no bullshit, and learning to put boundaries up and say no.
Boundaries.
It's such a beautiful
Aren't they
thing.
lovely?
Yeah, that's our little reflection on that.
I feel like it would have been nice to have some like little dreamy music play right there. Like,
Right.
oh, boundaries. Do. You know.
Well, I'm going to give some practical tools and tips here. Just to,
Because why not?
because why not, as we move through this. Yeah.
We need them.
So learning to recognize early warning signs and stop before hitting full burnout. I wish I had done that. I wish I had known that burnout was a thing. Setting boundaries. Oh, we just talked about that. Not just with work, but with people, expectations, and responsibilities. So that's boundaries with yourself.
Totally.
As well.
I will say, I'm going to cut in here. One thing I remembered last night when I was reflecting on my history of overgiving and not setting boundaries, because I think sometimes it can be hard to recognize when you're doing that.
Really difficult.
I will say something that I know stood out for me that I ignored for a really long time was when I said yes and that made me angry. Like I felt angry every time I said yes because I was stressed, I was exhausted, I didn't want to be saying yes, but I was saying it anyway. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
No,
as like,
it's very valid.
If you are saying yes to things and then you feel resentful about it, take a look at that because there is something going on there.
Oh yeah,
that is a message to yourself.
And I feel quite confident we'll be doing quite a few episodes moving forward that will talk about boundaries. But yeah, boundaries can be really challenging for women who are very much, their identity is connected to being nurturers, to being the caregivers, which I mean, so many women do have that as part of their identity. And they're very happy with being the nurturing, caregiving, and, you know, the one that's always there for everyone. But
of course, I think it can be.
Gotta look at that.
It can be very energizing if it's something you love doing. Sure, absolutely, but it's that having those boundaries of knowing when enough is enough, and knowing that you also deserve to be nurtured.
Yes, that's just it. You know, real self-love is setting boundaries and setting boundaries for yourself as well. The expectations you put on yourself and the responsibilities you take on. So, another thing would be tuning into the body, listening when exhaustion starts creeping in, getting curious. Why are you tired? Have you been tired? Like, have you been having this feeling just consecutively for a long, long time? Take a look at it. Make sure you did it to check in. Ask for help before you're drowning. Another issue women really struggle with, but men too. My gosh,
I think that's just like,
that's just a
human problem right there.
Asking for help. Yeah. Delegate tasks, even if it feels uncomfortable. I know that that's something I found near impossible, was delegating tasks, you know, especially when people wanted to help. Right. And I just would feel overwhelmed by, I don't know. And I could just do it myself. And and build community and safe relationships where you can express your struggles. I mean, that is so important, that you have people in your life that you can actually talk about the hard stuff with. Yeah,
for sure.
Without judgment, and where you know you'll find support. It's so essential. So, we're going to go and explore the burnout recovery trap. We're going to start off with why self-care isn't enough. So, because there are some misconceptions about what self-care actually is, and certainly delving into thinking like you're going to, not feel burnt out if you have a bubble bath, that definitely would not be proper treatment for sure. The most common advice with burnout is take a break, get more sleep, do a spa day. I mean, legitimately, these are the things that are being said. So But the problem is that burnout isn't just about being tired. Again, it's about deep depletion. So surface level self-care simply just isn't enough. If we don't change the root cause of where it's coming from, we'll just end up right back where we started. And I can say, like I already shared with all of you, that is exactly what would happen with me, is I was going in the circles, right? So I'd gain some momentum and then I'd crash, and it was never getting anywhere. So how did we initially try to fix our burnout, and why didn't it work? Well, because I didn't realize what was going on.
I think because initially I wasn't trying to fix burnout.
Exactly.
I was trying to just keep going.
Yeah. Just wanted to feel better, but I didn't know where it was coming from.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I'm trying to think if I like did anything specific initially. No, I think it was just like a matter of like put on the blinders and keep going.
Definitely where it was for me for years.
I think some of the things I think I probably did when I was younger was like, well, I'll go out partying, right? Go have some fun, go party, go drink. That'll help. Yeah.
For me, I just kept taking on more and more projects, inventing more shit to do.
Yeah.
If I stayed busy, then I could avoid dealing with the root problems.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
So, yeah. And then eventually, like I said, crash and start all over again. And yeah, it was not a very glamorous.
Yeah, I feel like I don't feel like I had like the big ups and downs. I feel like I was just pretty much at a constant state of, misery.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So
constant state of struggle, I should say.
Yep.
Is like what it was.
Yeah. Well,
like where I would have, I would have some times that were good, but I just remember crying a lot. Like that was my thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'd feel okay for like a little while, and then I would just like kind of go into these pits of like, I'm just gonna cry a lot.
And you have to go way back with me on this one, because I have been on my healing journey for quite some time now, but like I used to need to cry but refuse to cry. There were many years where I had to keep this shield up and wouldn't cry.
No, I was definitely there.
That made me even that affected my nervous system over and beyond.
I was definitely there for quite a few years, because I think I remember like one of like that. It was actually a concern of mine when I had like one of my first counselors, where I was like, I am broken. I can't cry. Like I don't have emotions, and I think that's not okay. There's something wrong. Like,
yeah, no. And of course, if you are feeling that way, you are not broken.
No.
That nobody's broken. That's not a thing. No. So we should just say that right now. Yeah. So like we've been saying, burnout is often a sign of our nervous system has been stuck in survival mode for far too long. So recovery starts with nervous system regulation. Because when your body still thinks it's in a crisis, you can't actually rest, right? So that's important to understand. Your body's not going to actually rest
when you're still being chased by a tiger.
Exactly. Yeah. So
essentially,
in your
nervous system,
your monkey mind. So you can't actually rest. So I don't know why I'm repeating that. Have you noticed how burnout affected? Have we noticed how burnout affected our ability to relax, even when we wanted to rest? And what were the hardest parts of slowing down? Oh my gosh.
Man.
Oh my gosh. I always had to have like several things on the go, even within like the multitasking queen. And I was proud of it. And wow, it was a nightmare.
Yeah. No, I'm just like, I mean, I guess like you were saying earlier, sometimes it's hard to go back and reflect on these things, but Gosh, yeah, I remember just like, I guess similar, just like multitasking and always planning.
Oh yeah.
Always planning in my head. Like, I swear, like every minute of every day was planned out when I had stuff to do. Like, yeah. Ooh, that was tense. Whew. And like say like even I know for myself it was like even sitting down to relax, I'll say in quotes, and watch a movie. I couldn't sit and watch a movie. I could sit and watch a movie if I was also doing something on my phone or also,
Yep.
doing.
Yep. That's exactly
like,
the vision that came to me.
Yeah.
When the question just came up, I was like, oh my gosh.
Like,
I
yeah,
used to
no.
sit there. I couldn't even just focus on watching a film unless I was at the theater.
Yeah.
And then that kind of would force me to. But even then, just to shut off the mind.
Yeah.
Even trying to read a book.
Yeah.
Honestly,
I was just gonna.
the
Yeah.
mind.
I was just gonna say. Yeah, reading.
Because the mind was just, and people say this all the time. Like, I've got, 100 tabs open in my mind. That is, I'm sorry to say, it's not normal. It's not a healthy state of being. And I only know that. Yeah, I shouldn't say not normal because it actually is more normal than it should be. But it is not a healthy state of being. And I know this because I was there. And I remember feeling over time, it became like a prison for me. That's what it felt like in my mind. And I couldn't get out of it. The constant, just never stopping. And, nowadays, sometimes I don't even have a thought for a long period. And I love those periods of time when I'm just like, damn, I didn't think about anything.
No, I hear you because like
I was doing that. Yes.
No. Now I'm thinking about the fact that I'm not thinking. Oh God. You start going in that spiral. No, but I feel like it's a bit like how you describe having the 100 tabs open and that being like awful and like just feeling stuck in that. I feel like that was similar to like my need to plan everything. It was like, God, when I like reflect on that, it was just this like, there was just this tension all through my body. And like, yeah, like when you think about like how, did notice our affect our ability to relax? Like, yeah, like my body was just in this state of constant tension to extremes.
Yep.
That relaxing felt, or trying to relax, like actually felt. Well, it felt unsafe. It felt so uncomfortable. And
100%.
Yeah.
Exactly
and
what
like,
you're talking about.
And having that, it's actually funny that you say like now sometimes I do things and I don't have a thought in my head. And I'm like, I'm very much like Phoebe from Friends now. I don't even have a pluh most of the time, and I used to plan out everything. And like, it's so like, I don't hardly plan anything nowadays.
Yeah. No, and this is, again, it's one of those things like vulnerable moment here. I'm going to say is of why sometimes these conversations are so challenging. And I'm sure it's why people avoid these deep conversations because going back and revisiting that feeling, because you can't really remember what was going on. And then that feeling not kind of almost come up because it's just what our bodies do. And it's like, ew, no, because I used to pray. Please just let it stop. Just mind, just shut off, please. I just need some peace. Like, can I just focus on one thing at a time? Can I just rest without feeling like so on edge? Why do I feel so on edge all the time? The anxiety, all of it, it felt so terrible to be in my body.
Yeah.
Just awful.
Well, and I think, I know I'll speak for myself. I think the whole point of healing was to get away from those feelings, right? And so I think, sometimes it can be difficult to like reflect and go back because like, no, I didn't like I've been doing all this work to get away. I don't want to go back and remember. But
absolutely. Yeah, no, but we do.
Yeah.
We do it for the people that we work with, and we're doing it for you who are listening. So here are some tangible shifts to regulate your nervous system. So, we're sitting here talking about all this nervous
Mm-hmm.
system stuff, but what do you do to regulate it? Micro moments. Instead of waiting for a big break,
Mm-hmm.
start with 5-minute resets and do little breathing exercises or just stepping outside. Or, one of the things we love to do is like just shake out the
Mm-hmm.
energy.
Mm-hmm.
Just shake your body and just jump up and down if you want, but just move the body, right?
Man, let's just start with 5-minute resets. I say always have 5-minute resets. Like,
Oh,
it's a
yeah.
great place to start. But, like,
Mm-hmm.
I find the little moments are the big moments.
They really are, yeah. Relearning safety.
Mm-hmm.
If you've lived in chronic stress, rest can feel unsafe
Mm-hmm.
at first. That's what we were just talking about. So just normalize the discomfort of slowing down. It legitimately will not feel comfortable
Mm-hmm.
to you to make these changes if you're struggling with this.
Mm-hmm.
And
No, like it says right there, like, if you've lived in chronic stress, rest can feel unsafe. That's how it felt. It felt very unsafe. It almost felt like letting this guard down.
Yep.
Right? Well, I guess it is in a lot of ways.
It very much is, yeah.
Like I talked myself through it.
You.
Like I think that's a thing too, is like, because I know for myself with that specific one of just like learning to sit still or learning to just like be in your body or whatever it is. Like I started going to like a lot of different healing things and ceremonies and different things where you had to sit and meditate and stuff like that. And I think that really helped, but like, ooh, it was uncomfortable. And I really had to like mentally talk myself through it and breathe. Basically, like it did feel like sometimes like I was going to have like a panic attack, but just sharing that to be like, hey, if you're in situations like that, if you're starting to learn to sit with yourself and meditate or whatever it is, just talk yourself through it.
Yeah.
Like it's gonna be okay.
Yeah.
And I don't know if we get there. Oh my goodness. Oh, yes, we do. I was going to go into movement, but that's on the list because that can really help.
Yeah. So sensory resets as well, reduce overstimulation. So we talked about that already. That's that dimming the lights and the background noise and limit doom scrolling. Just getting so invested in the social media, like our phones. It's an amazing thing that we have these phones that do all these great things, and you can look up how to get a place in a split second, and you can find the restaurant nearest to you, and it's so convenient in so many ways. But these phones have also been a very negative thing in our lives, and we need to have some regulation. Yeah. So, and then yes, gentle movement, walking, stretching, shaking out tension instead of forcing yourself into high performance workouts. A lot of this has to do with parenting yourself, reparenting yourself. I mean, you're not going to sit still if you don't parent yourself into, like you were saying, talking to yourself. This is what
talking
you need.
Gently and lovingly
this
to yourself.
This is what you need to do right now to help yourself to feel better. This is what we're doing right now. And you literally talk.
It's okay. You're okay.
Own mind. You're okay. You're safe.
Just breathe.
Yes. Yeah. And these are essential things.
No, and what I was going to say about movement was I feel like for myself, movement became the thing that kind of like very much a bridge to helping me learn to sit still, to sit in meditation, or just sit and be still. Because like for me, movement because it gets you into your body. It gets you into your body, but you're still doing something.
Absolutely.
So I think for me personally, it's a nice bridge for like getting into my body and starting to kind of regulate and get in my body, and then it's easier to be able to sit and do breath work or sit and meditate or
Well, and I'm going to say for myself, having been, in the burnout phase, stuck in survival mode, I know one of my things was I don't have time. I don't have time to do that. I
Mm-hmm.
don't have time to do breath work. I don't have time
Mm-hmm.
to go for a walk. I don't have time to sit and meditate.
Mm-hmm.
All the
Mm-hmm.
things,
Of
right?
course.
But you don't have time not to.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. And when we look at the amount of time that some of us do spend, say, on social media,
Mm-hmm.
what are you getting out of that? Like, truly.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that we should all just abandon our social media.
Well, I don't think that's a reality at
That's
this
just
point in
not a
time.
reality.
Like how we
It's
live.
regulation.
Yeah.
It's discipline.
Yeah.
With it, right? And really say, like, okay, like, maybe if you really enjoy scrolling, maybe that's part of a reward system. That's part of a downtime that you take after you go for a walk.
We all enjoy scrolling. It's designed for our brains to enjoy it.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean it's necessarily healthy.
Absolutely.
But yeah, no, I absolutely.
Yeah. So, and we'll be getting into more episodes on some of these things that we're talking about, like reparenting yourself and just multiple, like I said, we've got a hustle culture episode coming up. And because this is such a big topic that we're not going to cover it in this episode. There's just no way.
Of course we are. Sit with us for 4 more hours.
So, yeah.
You don't have to sit still.
So a big part of burnout recovery is learning to say no without guilt. And we touched on this a little earlier, but it really is a problem of learning to say no and put up boundaries and not feel guilty or feel anxiety about putting those boundaries in place. What were the hardest things for us to say no to? And how did we finally start setting boundaries without feeling like horrible people? Ooh.
I just gotta say, I saw this question and I was like thinking about it, and I was just like, there was a period of time in my life where I literally could not say the word no. Literally couldn't say it, and I didn't say it. And now I love the word no. I love the word no. It's like it's so great. Oh. And I love saying no with no explanation.
Oh no, you are very good with it too, because you just go, nope.
Yeah. And I think I'm cute. I get away with it, I think.
Nope.
No.
Can you help me with this? Nope.
No.
Sorry. You don't even say sorry. You just go, nope.
No, I stopped saying sorry a long time ago. Yeah. I stopped saying, this is a whole other thing. I wish I could find that original post that I read when I stopped saying sorry, because it was a whole thing about how we say sorry and basically what it does to us. I know I'm getting off topic because this is about no, but they go hand in hand. It's like not explaining yourself.
Yeah,
is what it is. Like saying no without explaining yourself, and not saying sorry unless you've actually done something wrong. Like if I, stepped on your foot, oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, but like not like, oh, can you help me with this? No, I'm sorry, I can't. Blah blah. And then you get into the explanation. I actually trained myself out of explaining myself and out of saying sorry, and like. I will say that was one instance where text messaging actually was a positive thing, because I would see myself write out my message and starting to explain and saying sorry, and then I would delete it all and just be like, no, I can't.
Yep.
Like,
yep.
But I mean, we got off topic a little bit, but not. What were the hardest things to say no to? Everything. Yeah,
everything. And how did we finally start setting boundaries without feeling like horrible people? That is a long journey. Honestly, for me, it was a very long journey.
It was yeah. I feel like I'm not gonna go into it's a long journey, because it is, or it can be. I think depending on your experiences.
I think yes, and also, even though you may have a handle on it for a period of time, it sometimes it's easy to fall back.
Totally. Oh, for sure.
Or especially with certain people.
For sure. Absolutely.
Right? Yeah.
I know for myself, like, I really, really struggled with setting boundaries without feeling like a horrible person, because I always felt like a horrible person, and like guilt was such a big thing that I struggled with. Yeah. How did I finally start doing it without feeling like a horrible person? First of all, getting to the point where that like burnout, that breakdown, and being like kind of getting to the point where realizing like if I don't start doing these things for it's do or die.
Yeah.
I can't keep living this way. I can't keep feeling this way.
Mm-hmm.
I have a right to put myself first. I have a right to have boundaries. And it was still difficult. You still, in the beginning, you still had those feelings come up. And I know for myself, it was like I would say no, or I would set a boundary. And then I would go through a process in my head of like, some anxiety, some guilt, and I would have to kind of talk myself through it. And it's like anything else, it's a practice. But I think like for myself, it became easier and easier when I started realizing how I felt every time I did it. When I started noticing the benefits of how I felt. Because I think also as women, we're so conditioned to be nice. Yeah. And then that comes in, right? When you're not being real good. I know we'll be getting into that. Yeah, we'll be getting into that. Yeah. But it's like we are conditioned to be helpful, to be nice, to be all these things.
Yep, to be good girls.
And then, you start setting boundaries, and also you start setting boundaries, and sometimes the people in your life have reactions to that because they're benefiting from you not having boundaries.
Oh, do they ever?
And they don't like you.
No, they don't like at all.
No, but I will say, yeah, for me, the biggest thing, and I noticed this early on too, so it's not like for me, it wasn't this like big, long struggle of like not noticing any benefits from setting boundaries. Mm-hmm. I started noticing the benefits for myself of setting boundaries from the day one.
Yeah.
But it gets easier and easier because you are still dealing with these, thought patterns and all these different things. And yes, now I love saying no.
Yeah, no, it's a good thing.
Well, and I think we also think that like saying no is mean, or we have to be, that was a thing for me. It was like, I felt mean, or I felt like I had to be mean.
You're going to let someone down.
But I felt
like,
are you
letting yourself
down?
Down?
Well, exactly. Right. But I think that's a thing that can come into is like feeling like setting boundary, you have to be like mean or super assertive to set boundaries, and you don't.
No,
you just have to be matter of fact. Yeah. And it's quite lovely.
Yeah. Nope. It's pretty simple.
No can do.
So boundaries that prevent burnout. With work, saying no to extra tasks. Like it legitimately is okay. If you can't take it on, don't take it on. Mm-hmm. Setting clear work hours, if you're constantly being asked to work overtime and it's causing you to run short with family life and all that, like, yeah, just, you can actually say no at work. And a lot of people don't realize that. Not answering emails at 10 p.m. It's okay to have a rule that you turn off your computer at 8, or you don't respond to any more messages or any,
screen your calls.
Yeah. Like for me, I mean, Sundays don't try to get a hold of me on a Sunday because it's just not likely to happen. Right. So yeah. And
good thing I know where you live. No,
yeah. And I do have time cutoffs for sure. Yeah. I think, there's very few people that and it's not because I care less or anything like that. It's what I need to do for me to take care of myself. I have to have those boundaries. With people, so this is, we're still on boundaries to prevent burnout. With people, recognizing energy drainers and limiting time with them. This is so essential. Spend time. If you are feeling any of these signs that you might be heading towards burnout, look at your relationships and reflect. See if some energy is being drained there. I know it was for
I think
me.
Also like if you're not looking forward to spending time with someone, you know what I mean? Like if you're dreading it.
Yeah, like
but you feel like you have to.
Yeah, gotta go out to dinner with them.
Exactly.
That's not a good sign.
No.
With ourselves. That's right. So like setting boundaries with yourself is huge. It's probably the most essential piece because you have to do that before you can do all the other stuff. Stopping that internal pressure to do more. Just Yeah. And putting boundaries on yourself about how much you work, putting boundaries on yourself about who you're hanging out with and how you're spending your time. So important. And then with social media, unplugging from the comparison culture. That's a big one that comes in, is comparing our lives to other people's in other circumstances, unplugging from that. So like, if you can look at social media and that's not an issue for you, of comparing yourself to others and having unrealistic expectations for your life, that is awesome. But if you are stuck in that comparison cycle, really reflect on that. And you know what? The beautiful part about social media is you get to reprogram your social media whenever you want. You can unfollow people who make you feel not good about yourself, and you can find other people who will inspire you. So
I was going to say
actually have control.
I was going to say the best part about it is all the kitten videos, but
kitten videos are great
if that's your thing.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's what you need to do, instead of comparing yourself to somebody who's like traveling the world and seeming. That's the whole other thing with all that, is you have no idea what's going on behind closed doors with those people.
I think we all know social media is people's highlight reels. Let's be honest.
Yeah, for sure. So, one of the hardest parts about burnout recovery is letting go of the belief that your worth is tied to your output. So what were the beliefs we had to unlearn about rest? And did we ever feel lazy for slowing down? I think we kind of already covered this one.
Yeah, we kind of covered that. But
so yeah, like there's a lot to unlearn about rest for sure. Just basically that you don't have to be on all the time.
Yeah.
And that you don't need to do something to earn that's just part of legitimately being a human being, is human beings need to rest. That's the way it is. So,
well, I think we learned from a very young age that like you have to work all week to earn your rest and fun on the weekend.
Exactly.
Like you see that. That's the system, right?
It's the system. Yeah. So
if you're lucky. Weekend also might just be full of chores to get ready to go back to work on Monday.
Absolutely. Yep. I mean, I'm very strict with myself on the weekends. And when something happens that messes with my strict routine I have in parenting myself, man, that can frustrate me. I'm not gonna, but then I have to take a breath and I have to realign, and I'm like, it's okay. Okay, so what can I drop from this? What can I add? What can I move around? It's like, okay.
Oh yeah, I definitely have to set some pretty strict boundaries for myself for work, because a lot of my work is done on a computer, and my computer's here, and if I'm home, I'm like, oh, I can work.
Yep.
Oh, but
yeah,
I'm like, no,
one going.
I definitely have to set boundaries there, because if I don't,
for sure. So, how to start reframing productivity and self-worth, recognizing that rest is productive.
Oh yeah, it totally is.
It really is.
It so is.
Because once you are rested, you're going to do so much better at the things that you want to move into action on. It is mind-boggling.
And this is like, like, once again, I mean, we go back to this like rest piece of like, it's not physically taking a rest, but like sometimes it could be, but like even middle of the day, like for myself, you're working all day on your computer or something, taking a rest for me is often going for a walk.
Yeah, absolutely.
And taking that break. And then I come back and I'm recharged to kind of do more work.
Absolutely. Yeah, because a burned out version of you is not your best self, period. Like that's the tricky thing about the burnout cycle, is it's like you go into it because you were doing, but you weren't even your best self while you were doing it.
Yeah.
And that's so sad in the scheme of things. So by resting, you actually get to be your best self.
Yeah.
Reflect on who benefits from your overworking. So we already discussed that reflection. And if your exhaustion fuels a system that doesn't care about you, maybe it's time to opt out. And Jamie already got into that so in depth. And it's, yeah, definitely worth reflecting on. Shifting from I should be doing more to what do I actually need?
Mm-hmm. That's a big one.
That's a very big one.
Mm-hmm.
And finding value in rest, play, and creative pursuits that don't have an outcome attached to them. So, and we've talked about that quite a bit. Some practical steps for reclaiming your energy. There is truly not an overnight fix, but small shifts add up, as we've said. So here's some things that you could look into a little further. Creating rest rituals, something that signals to your body that it's time to slow down. So this is like having a nightly routine or having that midday pause, like Jamie was just talking about going for a walk. So the walk is rest. And then your body knows, and you come back in and you have more energy to continue working. So it's very important to find these rituals, or even just doing nothing for an hour. Like it's just a matter of retraining your brain and your body to work with you on this. So you create a ritual. I definitely have a nighttime ritual, and I have a morning ritual too. Check your energy leaks. So that's noticing where your energy is going, and are you overextending in places that don't actually matter. So that's all the things we've previously discussed, looking at just where and to who your energy is going. Cut out obligation energy. Stop saying yes just because you feel you should. If it doesn't feel aligned, it's a
no. Sorry.
A big
I
no.
really wanted to yell.
Yeah, no, I think that
it's a no.
Yeah. And build a burnout recovery toolbox. So what are your go-to practices that actually help? And that's something you have to explore. Some people respond more to movement, some to journaling, deep rest, reducing obligations. Like, it can be any combination of things. It's figuring out your special healing formula for you. So what was the first step that worked for us in recovering from burnout? And what surprises us most about the process? Like, we're in our final question here.
First big step. I feel like for me, the first big step was doing nothing, like taking those pauses. And for me, that was in nature.
Yeah.
And because I feel like for me, there was so much beauty in nature, and there was so much stuff that I could look at and listen to. It was a way for me to do nothing, but without feeling like I was doing nothing, if that makes sense. Like, it was relaxing, and I was able to just sit and be or walk. I spent a lot of time just sitting in nature, actually, and just being with nature automatically, like, it's scientifically proven, being outside in nature calms your nervous system. So whether you notice that or not, it's happening when you're outside and with nature. So I think, that was really kind of, I think the big first thing for me was being able to pause and just sit and do nothing. And just enjoy watching birds, enjoy listening to birds, enjoy watching the waves, or just staring at a tree. Because there was just so much beauty, and I felt that, and I just felt so relaxed that my brain, I think instantly, when I, from the first time I intentionally went and spent time in nature, I think I noticed my mind just be clear and that sense of relaxation come over me.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I think, definitely taking a pause was big. Learning to pause that, and all the things you just described, very much so. Sitting by myself by the ocean, and just watching the waves. That would be certainly something that was going on in the early days of healing. Truly, my situation had gotten to such a bad place. And it's interesting because a lot of people around me didn't even realize what was going on, because I just kept everything in. I really truly had to reset my whole life. I mean, if I'm being completely honest, my life had to have a full reset. Now, tools that helped me massively in that process were the taking the pause, journaling, breath work, and learning to meditate. Those were huge. And working with an energy healer. So, yeah, I think everybody's, process again is going to be so different because it depends on how long you've been in survival mode, or you've been experiencing burnout. It depends on what traumas you have suffered, or, it's so unique to the person. And, there's certain things like I said earlier, just saying, I'll start meditating, that you could get frustrated so quick and then just give up. And I've been told by so many people, I can't meditate. Right. So I don't know that that's necessarily a starting point. No. For sure.
I think
learning to pause would be the number.
And I think learning to care for yourself, like, yes. Like learning to pause, I think was like the first biggest one for me. But, when I think about it too, I'm like, learning to care for yourself, even if it's the tiniest thing. But like, like for myself, another one was making myself a healthy breakfast every morning.
This is self-love.
Yeah. And it was like, it might sound so silly and so simple, but it was this act of care. It was this ritual that I started to do that was just for me. I wasn't making breakfast for anyone else.
Yep.
It was just for me. And I would go, obviously in the nice weather, I would go outside and sit and eat my breakfast and have a cup of tea. And like, that was my time.
Yep.
So it can start with very simple little things that you're just doing for yourself.
No, absolutely. And, it really is learning self-love and self-care, which are one and the same. You can't do self-care without self-love.
Yeah. And like
and vice versa.
And learning,
they're the same thing.
Yeah. And like learning that, you're gonna show up better for yourself and for everyone in your life if you're taking time for yourself, if you are practicing self-love and that self-care. It's so easy to get into that headspace of like, oh, I gotta do, go. But like, I think you said earlier on, it's like you're not showing up as your best self.
No, you're
not.
And
so you kind of get stuck in this cycle of feeling like shit about yourself too, because you're not showing up as your best self. You feel like you're burning the candle at both ends. You're trying to do all these things and you feel like you're failing at all of them.
Well,
essentially.
The saying that you can't pour from an empty cup is very so accurate. Yeah. It really is.
Yeah, no, 100%.
It's like you're going further and further into debt. That's kind of what burnout is. It's like you're going further into the minuses, into debt because you're giving when you have nothing to give. You're doing when you have nothing there. You have no energy reserve to do. So yeah,
that is such a good metaphor, the cup one, because then it's like you start to fill your cup and it might sound cliche and whatever, but it's like you start to fill your cup until it overflows, and then the overflow goes to everyone else that you're trying to serve from an empty cup.
And we will do some much deeper dives into self-love and self-care because it's a much more in-depth conversation than just saying, like self-love, like feel good about yourself. I mean, yes, you absolutely should feel good about yourself. And with, radical, authentic self-love, you're an advocate for yourself, and you are parenting yourself, and you are disciplining yourself, and you're setting boundaries for yourself. There's so many layers to it. So we'll explore those things deeper as we move through episodes of our podcast. And but yeah, so for today, I'll just say burnout isn't just about doing too much. It's not about being tired. There's so much more to it.
Yeah.
It's about why we feel we have to do too much in the first place. Recovery starts with reclaiming your time, energy, and self-worth. This week, we challenge you to do one thing that supports your nervous system, whether it's saying no to an unnecessary obligation.
Highly recommend.
Yes. Follow Jamie's lead. You just say nope. Taking 5 extra minutes to breathe. It will amaze you how much 5 minutes, just 5 minutes. And there's apps that you can put on your phone that can, time you, or fantastic. Definitely one of the first things I ever did was put an app on my phone that was a breathing app.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, no, for sure. Our lovely Wim Hof.
Oh yes. Yeah.
Or giving yourself permission to do absolutely nothing without guilt. So yeah, do one of those things for yourself this week. For sure. Even if you're not identifying with struggling with burnout or being stuck in survival mode, these are good things to do.
Oh yeah.
To stay healthy, to avoid these problems. So yeah. So today's episode resonated with you. Please rate, leave a comment, or share with someone who might need this message. Spread the word, guys. Sharing is caring, as we say. Follow us on social media at Unraveling This Life, where, you will show up in your Instagram feed, and we'll have lots of inspiring things to make that feed a little more enjoyable, maybe. And you can also subscribe to our newsletter for more resources, offerings, and updates. And speaking of updates, if you didn't happen to catch on through our social media in the last week, we are starting a membership. So for those of you that are ready to go deeper, we have exclusive episodes inside our membership where we explore how to navigate healing and life's many complexities with self-love, compassion, and resilience. So we hope to see you inside and continue this healing journey with you. There's going to be a community in there to connect with other women who are on similar paths. And there'll be lots of bonus material within the membership that branches off of this podcast, but provides you more in-depth healing. So come on over and check that out. And thank you for tuning in today to Unraveling with July and Jamie. Until next time, we love you, and remember, be kind to yourself.